All right. I really didn't want to end up talking about this, but I guess you're going to end up having to talk about this. And that has to do with the supposed assassination attempt on Donald Trump. I'm going to tell you I don't buy it. I believe the whole world is a stage and there's a show going on. And I'd like to start by talking about this guy here. This is just a fellow, Brandon Briggs. And I chose this picture because it shows him talking about a supposed prophecy of Donald Trump going to be attacked, and he's a bullet's going to go by his ear and pop his eardrum. He doesn't actually say it's going to hit him, but he does say, a bullet's going to go by and bust his ear, and he shows it across his right ear. And people are thinking that this guy is now a prophet, even though he's made all kinds of predictions, claiming, thus saith the Lord, right? He's a prophet, and none of them happen. But this one happens, and now all of a sudden, he's a prophet, and everybody wants to hear what he has to say. And it just shows how easy Revelation is going to be fulfilled when it talks about this false prophet, because the false prophet can have false predictions, and people are still going to believe him because he might be right about something, right? And yeah, and not to mention uh, what happened here. I don't believe he was hit because I watched the footage, and when I saw it, I thought something was a little weird. Such as I noticed that when he got shot, supposedly, he went and touched his ear, and then he looked at his hand, and there was nothing on his hand. No blood, nothing. And that's what's going on right here. He has a shot, he goes, he looks at touches his ear, brings it back down, and there's no blood on his hand. None. And then he drops to the ground, and you don't see him for a bit, because he drops down behind the podium, and then some security guards come up and they cover him. And after the fact, you can look at some of the footage of people showing that they were pointing out that there's a guy climbing up on the roof. He has a rifle. Everybody's like pointing this out, and nobody cares because it was planned. And looking at this picture here, this is when he gets up. It looks like a bunch of blood, right? But you can't tell if there's any wound. I mean, his ear looks fine. It just looks like there's some blood on it. So it looks like you could say, oh, yeah, a bullet grazed his ear, right? But don't really see any damage. And that's why you see him wearing like a bandage on it now, right? He's covering up because I don't think there's really a wound there unless he took a razor like the wrestlers do and give himself a little cut, make it look like they got busted open, right? And when you listen to Trump tell the story, he says, oh, when I touched my ear and I looked at my hand, it was covered in blood. And then I just dropped down. And then he said he was looking at his hand and it was covered in blood. But even when he got up, you look at the footage. This is a picture of him raising his hand. In the footage, you can see him holding his hand open, where it's not a closed fist, but he's holding it open. And there's not a drop of blood on his hand, right? None. And he holds his fist up saying, fight, fight, fight. There's no blood on his hand. But he touched his ear that was supposedly bleeding real bad. He fell to the ground. You would assume he grabbed his ear, and he says it himself that he touched his ear and that he had blood all over his hand, but there's none. None. Not to mention that this closed fist is a Roman salute. Just to add more to this. But yeah, I'm not buying that he was actually had an attempt on his life. I believe there was shots fired, but they intentionally missed to make it look like they were going after him, and then use this to pump it up to look like, oh, the left is trying to kill him, and to build up support for him. Kind of like what happened to, was it Ronald Reagan? I believe it was Ronald Reagan. They had an assassination attempt on him, and then next thing you know, everybody supported him, the left and the right. They're just using what works to try to get him back in office. And then afterwards, talking about it, he's like, Christians, go out there and vote, 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 vote. And you won't have to vote again. You vote me in, and we're gonna fix everything, and you'll never have to vote again. So what? The left is right. You're gonna have a dictatorship. You're gonna be what? The king of America? There's no more voting. Why wouldn't there be any more voting? What's going on? What are you planning? And then when he says, "Oh, I love you, Christians," and then he nods his head no, saying, "I'm not Christian. Go vote for me." Where he straight up tells you he's not Christian, which I've been telling Christians he's not Christian. He says, "I don't come to God for forgiveness." He was asked to recant that recently. They asked him, "Do you regret saying what you said?" And he's like, "No. No, I think I'm a good person. And I try to do good. I don't worry about it. I don't need to come to God for forgiveness." He's not Christian. Him saying he is a lie, and you supporting that is a lie. This is all a stage. It's all a show. Because he's taken over. And I am not a leftist. I'm not a Democrat. I don't support Biden or Kamala Harris. I don't want the left in power. I don't believe in a lot of things they support. There's a few things I do agree with. The Republican side, there's more things that I agree with. I lean more towards the right, but I'm not a Republican either. And I'm definitely not a supporter of Donald Trump. This guy is a pompous con man. And he's just playing the art of the deal. He already told you everything about it himself in his book, The Art of the Deal, just like Hitler told you all about himself in Mein Kampf. And you still put him in this position of power. So I've been saying this, and I'm very well convinced since I see how Trump is rising up, very much like a Hitler, that he is the antichrist. I understand some of you may think that's foolish or dumb, or we don't know who it is, but I don't care, because Jesus is coming to get his church soon. We're going up, and the people left behind, they're going to listen to us, the ones who were taken. So I'm letting you know, this is the guy. Don't get caught up in his hype. The people who left behind, who are supposedly Christian, that are supporting him, aren't Christian, because if they were Christian, they would have been taken. It's all a bunch of BS. It's a lie, a deception, to make you think that you're on the wrong side. You're the one going against God. Make you think that they're on the right side. They're just flipping it, the script here. Deceiving you, manipulating you, confusing you, getting you into your emotions. Because when you get into your emotions, you don't think, like, oh man, what just happened? They just tried to kill him. Oh, whoa, what's going on here? Just like at 9/11. Right when it happens, they're like, oh yeah, it was the terrorists. It was these Muslims. They automatically give you the whole scenario. They tell you what happened. But you're like, wait, through all this, nothing, you couldn't find anything of anybody, but you could find this passport when it's not even singed. And these buildings, they came down perfectly straight down like a controlled demolition. They didn't topple over one way or the other. This came down perfectly like a controlled demolition. And when you calm down, you get out of your emotions, you can see, hey, you're lying. And you'll see the same thing here, but a lot of you're probably in your emotions, and you're not going to accept this truth because you're responding emotionally, not reasonably or logically. You're not looking at the facts. You're not thinking this through. You're just getting caught up in this hoopla. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Take care.